welcome to episode 2 of the MMA Depressed Us. I shouldn't even say just MMA Depressed Us. This is Zane
It
Simon.
did, Zane. It did.
Hmm?
It did. It depressed us.
It did. Oh, shit. I've got this.
You've got the YouTube video open. Zane's muted now while closing that YouTube video. There we go. All right.
I'm glad, I really thought I was going to nail this intro this time around. Like, I was really ready for this, and I had it all plotted. Usually I get really fucking sidetracked every time I do an intro. And this time I was like, I'm not going to get sidetracked. I'm going to nail this, and then bam. All right.
It was not to be.
I'm joined by my ever-present co-host, Connor Rebish. We are here to watch the worst MMA fights we can find. The worst, especially UFC, and this time, Pride. We're going to start throwing some Pride in there because God knows Pride had some terrible fights. Well, maybe we'll get some WEC in there if people can remember a bad WEC fight. There have been some, I'm sure. That'll probably have more fun, sloppy fights than really bad fights because it's a small cage, the lightweight classes. You're not going to get a lot of really boring ones.
Mm-hmm.
But, whatever's available on Fight Pass, we want people to be able to watch with us, to be able to find the videos easily, to be able to know that they're watching the same videos we are. So it'll be pretty consistent.
And this was very popular, Zane, last time. People really surprisingly tuned in to watch bad fights on a non-fight week, a non-UFC week, which I think tells us two things. Our core fan base really likes MMA, and they don't like themselves because we were asking several times before the video began, why are we doing this? Because we have some truly bad fights queued up for today's viewing.
We really do. It's a good question of like I'm really not sure what our general life plan is at the moment with this. So
should we tell everyone what fights we're watching so they can queue them up in Fight Pass?
Yeah, this week we are going to be watching the first and foremost, we're watching we're going to be starting with Josh Berkman versus KJ Noons.
From UFC Fight Night, Hendricks versus Thompson.
Yep. Berkman versus Noons. That is our boring, nothing happens, absolutely zero action fight this week.
The bad fight.
The bad fight. Our good bad fight, and this could conceivably be a bad fight, so you're getting kind of a double dose here.
In some ways it is.
In some ways it is Mark Kerr versus Hugo Duarte at
Pride 4.
Pride 4. This is one of those all-time crazy bad, oh my God, how did anybody put this on or stand to watch it fights.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to be ending the whole show with our big disappointment fight, Frank Mir versus Mirko CroCop at UFC 119.
Which lingers in my memory. It is still to this day the only time I can recall having gone to a wing place to watch fights and noticing that though everyone always sticks around for the main event, that's why they show up, everyone was leaving midway through, including me, and I don't leave from fights. I walked out because I was so bored hanging out with my friends. I actually walked out as the knockout happened. It happened as I was leaving the door. I looked over, shrugged, and continued on my way. It was a huge disappointment for me. Both of these guys still had a lot of cred at this time, CroCop and Mir. They were still considered top heavyweights. It was supposed to be this big, exciting clash. And it's the rare fight that ends in a finish and yet somehow never redeems itself. So that's our main event, our disappointing fight.
And, there will be bigger disappointments out there, but we really, it's sort of like GSP Shields. We're leading with this one because it left such a lasting impression on Connor. And if nothing else, I really want to experience and revisit his pain with him. I think that's a core part of this show is bringing up our own bad memories. So that's where we're going today. I mean, we'll be getting to the Frank Shamrock super fights at some point down the line. We'll be getting to Brandon Vera versus Randy Couture at some point down the line.
How about Shogun Hua versus Mark Coleman at some point? That was a disappointment.
Frankie Edgar versus Uriah Faber. Like, these things will happen. We will be meeting these all head on. But right now, we want to start out with those impacts seared deep into Conor's soul. Because that's what makes me feel good. So at least one of us needs to be getting something out of this.
And by the way, our first fight, for a fight that means nothing, I think has left quite a lasting impression on us. Josh Berkman versus KJ Noons had all the makings of a really fun, like one of those fights that it doesn't mean anything. There's no relevance in the division, and that's fine because you have these two guys who are kind of renowned as action fighters meeting. Both guys like to strike, and I mean, it too is kind of a disappointment if you look at it from that perspective.
They're both known fighters, so it's more disappointing. But at this point, we were also at the point where neither guy had any much cred left. So,
yeah. And this basically destroyed the last of it for both of them, I think.
Yeah, it really kind of did. So on that note, we are going to be starting every video at second one of the UFC Fight Pass video, and we'll be talking our way through it as we go. So should be pretty easy to sync up. You don't have to skip ahead or skip past anything or find any timestamps or any of that.
If you are at home watching some of these on DVD or some other method, you can also wait to just start watching with us, and we'll say when round one begins so you can sync up the actual fight too.
Yeah. Yeah. If somehow, God knows why, you are the kind of person who is going to go out of your way to make this more difficult on yourself, we will try and make it easier on you. On that note, we are going to start the first fight, Josh Berkman versus KJ Noons, starting it on after one, not on one. Nobody goes on one.
3, 2, 1, go.
3, 2, 1, go. All right, get our little Fight Pass intro coming at me here. And Joshua Berkman versus KJ Noons. I really like the determination to go by Joshua because I think of him as Josh Berkman. He gets called Josh Berkman all the time, but it's very determined Joshua in actual UFC graphics.
Mm-hmm. I like that. There's a certain kind of doggedness to that. Man, see, looking at these highlights,
I know.
Boy, are we in for a fight, right, Zane? Look at these highlights. Knockout punches. Both guys swinging wild. Oh, it's going to be great, isn't it?
It really is. Like, both guys have a long history of being scrappy, fun action fighters. Berkman especially has a history of being a guy who could really take a fight anywhere and compete.
Yeah, he's the all-rounder, but man, given the right matchup, KJ Noons has kind of lost all of his shine. But do you remember Noons' 2 fights with Nick Diaz? They were both excellent fights. They were both so fun to watch.
Yeah, and KJ Noons at his peak, he was a hell of a fun action fighter to watch. Really somebody that was easy. At least for me, I mean, I know a lot of people didn't love him, but somebody that was easy for me to root for. He's got this great action style going, really knew what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it. Very, very much a fighter that I really love watching guys who know exactly how they want to win rounds. I don't even care if it's wrestling or grappling or striking, however they're doing it. As long as they know they have a set plan, that's always entertaining for me.
And that is maybe where KJ lost that spark that made him interesting, because it seemed later in his career he kind of forgot how he wanted to win his fights.
Yes.
Or he didn't have confidence in his ability to win it with the usual way, which is, this sort of hands low, head movement based power shot boxing game that he was known for.
Or just maybe didn't, and you lose a little bit of speed and suddenly it's much harder to make that style work when that's all you have to go to.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Noons was never much. He was one of many boxing to MMA transplants who was, the boxing background was constantly brought up, and it gave people this impression that he was some amazing boxer. Really, he was a guy who liked to throw hands. He wasn't ever like a phenomenal jabber. He didn't stick and move all that well. His footwork spin, he's pretty static as far as boxers go. But he likes to box. He likes to engage in a fist fight, and that was what made him fun.
So yeah, we got Nunes just walked out. He's in the cage now. Berkman's walking out. Glove touches. It's fun. It's weird because I see all this going on. I've seen the highlights. I see the fighters. We're talking about them, and I'm actually kind of excited now.
You feel like, how could this be a bad fight? We have these two like power punch throwing journeyman veterans. They're going to go to war here, Zane. They're going to go to war.
They are going to go to war. They are going to put on, a Spencer Fisher, Sam Stout battle for the ages where, it's like, these two guys are solid scrappers. They always know how to fight. They always come with it. I can't wait for this.
Except I think for Berkman, he has more of like the Hannibal post crossing the Alps strategy where he's just kind of camp out in enemy territory and do his damnedest not to engage and make KJ Nunes, the Roman, chase him around.
Berkman's his late career strategy isn't like, as Berkman, and a lot of fighters, you hear this from a lot of fighters when you talk to them. A lot of guys, their strategy is they want to think on their feet. They want to be in the cage, feeling the fight, feeling the moment, really getting to take opportunities as they see them. And Berkman is like the epitome to a fault of that fighter, in that at this stage, he is looking for opportunities to take and never finding them. Yeah. Ever. You can't really drift through a fight being like, I'll take whatever's out there, if you never actually find anything to take.
Yeah, and I think really Berkman already looks disappointed as we look at the tail of the tape here. He already looks like he knows the fight's not going to be good.
He looks like somebody just farted, and
he's got that Misha Tate, I'm smelling something awful constantly expression going on there. Or CB Dollaway is the more notable example. He's got that Clarence Byron face going on. But the thing, I think Berkman's problem, and we can talk about this as the fight plays out. Both guys are being.
We're going to have to talk about this as the fight plays out.
We got to talk about something to keep things lively. But the thing with Berkman is that I think that strategy is especially difficult for him because he goes out there, he says to himself, I'm going to outthink this guy. I'm going to feel the fight out. I'm going to see the openings and then exploit them. And I think Josh Berkman has a critical case of overthinking late in his career. I think he is constantly overwhelmed with the amount of options at his disposal, always trying to be unpredictable and not really just going off of feel, which is really, as a veteran, what your biggest advantage should be. As a guy who's had as many fights as Josh Berkman, who has as many finishes both on the ground and standing, your advantage should be that you know how to find those openings without really having to think about it. You're not forcing it. And round one is about to begin. It begins now.
All right, so they touched gloves, and that is going to be one of the only moments they touch each other in the entire fight.
Berkman comes in, as I recall, with a very kick-heavy game plan, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you know that KJ Nunes is going to put a lot of weight forward, and you know that you don't want to trade in the pocket, and he's not going to necessarily close distance really quickly. So, kick.
3 low kicks off the bat. Last one missed, but he has an idea in mind. He wants to keep with those oblique kicks. He wants to keep KJ Nunes out at range, and then while he's out there, he wants to kick him.
KJ Nunes just threw a jab from like 20 feet away.
That Rin Nakai jab.
There's another one. It's like, that's not even a feint at that point. If you're throwing a jab so far away.
He's measuring. It's a measuring jab, but a few of those should tell you, like, my measuring stick is now telling me I'm too far away to hit you.
Yeah, my measuring stick is telling me that you are still 6 feet from the end of my arm.
Some good low kicks here by Berkman. Yeah. I got to say, he's landed some pretty solid kicks.
Yeah, and just threw a body kick, too. Like, the kick-heavy style, the idea that it could build into something more exciting is right there. We're seeing okay, he's got this kick-heavy plan. This could really evolve.
He's building a foundation.
Yeah. Laying the foundation for a very, very crappy house.
I think we'll find that instead of building a house, Berkman will decide that he wants to just put a tent on top of the foundation and just sleep in there. Maybe a lean-to of some kind. The frustrating thing in this fight is not... So we've got Berkman. He's trying to build off the kicks. I think Berkman is the one who is doing what he needs to do. I'm actually, as much as we said about Berkman overthinking, so far, I find it pretty hard to criticize Josh Berkman.
Yeah, in the first 2 minutes of this fight, he's done a reasonable job getting himself...
It may not be the most exciting way to fight, but it's a very smart way to approach KJ Noons. It's totally rational. The question is, what is KJ Noons going to do about it to change the tenor of the fight? The problem is we have KJ. He is constantly in that kicking range. And as much as people like to say, we mentioned it before, you kick someone because you don't want to be in striking range with them. The kicks are not necessarily a great way to keep them at that range. That's what jabs are for. It's what feints are for. It's what footwork is for.
So there's a couple of nice body kicks, I got to say. Those, and this is probably also partially why this fight never got going, is that we've actually seen enough good kicks early to make Noons have to think about how, he has to watch for something at range. He can't just settle down.
But the thing is after this, you've got 3 minutes. You have landed literally nothing. You have not even thrown a punch in range to connect. No punches with intent. If you're KJ Noons, you have to already be thinking, I'm going to take some kicks. I got to follow those things back in and get to my range. It's okay if you get hit if you make the guy pay for it. But he is just content to sit at kicking range with Josh Berkman. And he's not even trying to be competitive there. He's not kicking. When Berkman comes forward, you'd think that would be Noons' chance to say, he's punching, I'm going to nail him with an overhand right. Something. He's just...
Yeah, there were the counter opportunities were right there. Berkman actually tried to trade hands with KJ Noons, and Noons just circled out, got the hell out of Dodge.
He is actively trying to put himself at Berkman's optimal range. It's strange.
Yeah. It's really strange. It's also, it's seeing KJ in a mode where it looks like all he's willing to do is lead. And he wants to lead from the outside, and he can't ever get settled enough outside to actually lead.
Yeah. So, one bad round is one thing. If you're KJ Noons, sometimes you're a tactically minded guy. You kind of get lost in the fight. You don't think of the fact that you're losing the round. You're just trying to come up with
these punch strike stats down there. Did you see that when they popped up? 0 of 0. Not just 0 landed, 0 attempted.
He has thrown no punches with intent to land. They've all been measuring punches and nothing more. So, in the corner, you would like to think that after this round, which KJ so clearly lost,
yes,
his corner's got to say, all right, KJ, this isn't working. Come forward. We need to press. The way to beat a kicker, and KJ's doing it in the last 10 seconds. Whoa. This is almost looking like it could be a good bad fight, Zane.
Almost. But so at the last 10 seconds, KJ actually decided to come forward, close the kicking down, and he did a pretty good job.
And he hurt his hand. So disappointment on top of disappointment for KJ Noons.
Yeah. And so, now we also have a good reason to have sealed this fight in all-time badness, because the moment any excitement could have started, bam, he's hurt.
Yeah, how did he hurt it, I wonder? Or I recall there was some kind of like a cut or something to the inside of his hand.
Yeah, I think that was it. It must have been shielding a kick, like a toenail.
Maybe, yeah.
That's all I can think of, because he's getting kicked a lot and having to, I think his hand got kicked, because otherwise maybe a phantom cut it. I don't know. Did he blade himself? I can't think of enough contact that happened in that round for him to have...
to fake the bloodshed.
Yeah.
Let's give the fans what they want to see. Cut the inside of the left hand open.
Oh, God.
So round 2 has begun. Your KJ Noons, he is pressing forward. That's what you want to see.
He is, and he just ate a right hook for it. He pressed forward, had a moment of success, ate a right hook from Berkman, and we're now back at kicking range, where Berkman is now not going to throw kicks. Oh,
there's a kick. There's a kick.
There's a head kick coming out. And man, Berkman is not a comfortable leader at all, is he?
No. He's actually he's a nifty counterpuncher. He's pretty good at counterpunching. And maybe that's KJ Noons' quandary here, is that he's being picked apart at range. Maybe he thought he'd out-jab Berkman at range. And he's afraid of running into a big counter shot. But if that's the case, you should be willing to sit down on something when Berkman feels compelled to come forward. That is when he is at his most vulnerable.
Berkman wrestling, doing some actual wrestling.
Berkman. A hilarious takedown from Berkman, and
just sat KJ down, threw him onto his butt, so he bounced, but could not hold him down at all.
Almost got the guillotine. That's one of Berkman's best attacks.
Yeah, it's
so far, Zane. Strategically, I have absolutely no complaints with what Josh Berkman is doing here.
It's true. I mean, he's actually trying. He's not good at leading, but considering that KJ's not leading himself, he's trying to lead.
And he's picking his spots to do it. He's using the threat of the kicks. He's picking his spots and also doing it to kind of scare KJ off when he seems to get a little aggressive. He'll swing at him. But right away, like 2 minutes in, KJ Noons is back to the same thing he was doing for the entire first round. He came out with an adjustment and then immediately abandoned it.
Yeah, wow. God, did you see that? Like, he just kind of walked in and just it wasn't even a feint or anything like that. He just threw, stopped mid-hook and just decided, I don't really need to throw that.
Yeah, it's maybe like he's being too picky with his shots. At this point for KJ Noons, you can't say, I'm going to throw all of the shots that have an 80% chance of connecting. Lower that threshold to 50%. If it has any kind of decent chance of landing, throw it and then throw 3 more things after it. Just overwhelm Berkman with some volume. Good left hook there from KJ Noons.
Yeah, there's like an overhand left almost that found Berkman perfectly and is not going to be followed up on in any way, shape, or form.
Back to this measuring. It's a little counterpunch there from Berkman. So he is giving Noons some reasons to be worried about coming on the inside. And then as soon as he steps back, he's kicking him. Almost looked like KJ's leg was a little hurt there. He kind of
I think honestly,
weirdly.
The first couple of kicks that Berkman threw to KJ's leg, I think they did enough to just kind of make him immediately wary.
Yeah, the way his body is kind of recoiling when he dips is making me think that he is suffering some pain in that lead leg now. He's having a hard time dropping his weight.
Yeah. And he just got stung. We didn't call it, but he did, Berkman clipped him and KJ just stopped. And then KJ actually doing what he needed to do, standing in the pocket, throwing more than one punch, and landed a couple of good hard shots on Berkman.
Yeah, and Berkman hit him. But again, I think KJ is the more natural boxer. I think he's going to be better in protracted exchanges. So you might get hit with a Berkman counter, but if you keep throwing, you're going to have. I think he's going to come out on top in that kind of exchange.
Berkman tends to be very much I can throw this one flashy strike really, really well, but if you ask me to put together any kind of combination, we've seen what he looks like when he leads. It's not pretty. He
tends to get out of position. He sticks his chin up in the air. His feet are not set properly.
Yeah.
So you got to force those exchanges. And, round 2 is almost gone. KJ has a couple moments of success.
But generally, it's just been Berkman kicking him apart.
Yeah.
And if you look at who got hurt the most this round, it's probably KJ even,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Just cut the cage off. Anything. He's that is the most chasing footwork there, where Berkman's just kind of walking away and KJ is still circling out and chasing him.
Walking along the cage after him.
Yeah. It's you are actually making it harder to cut the cage off than you need to.
I liked what KJ did there. He actually came in with a kick, spinning back fist, crazy shit. It's not like it's the most clean or technical stuff, but you got a guy circling, throw some kicks at him. You're at kicking range. The thing is that KJ Noons had a period there where it's like he was trying to be more well-rounded. He was actually a little competitive with Donald Cerrone in the first round of their fight.
Mm-hmm.
And now it seems like he's abandoned it. This fight's kind of baffling because KJ Noons, his problem was that he didn't seem... Oh, and here's where KJ's corner tells him that he lost the round, and he is shocked to hear it. Did you see that facial expression?
Yes.
I recall that very clearly. His corner said, "You lost that round," and he is like, "What? What do you mean?" So KJ is just, I think he is purely a tactical fighter. He has no picture in his head of what winning a whole fight looks like, just winning single exchanges. And he has, in his mind, has just ticked off all the exchanges he lost in favor of the 2 or 3 that he got the better of.
Yeah, it really... And with Berkman's corner, you can see that just lean back and kick him more.
Yeah. So KJ Noons, corner told him he lost. You think he's got to get really aggressive here. He's got to come after Berkman. And I think that's actually really smart because Berkman knows that KJ is going to come out aggressive. He thought about it and immediately takes him down. Just gives him something else to think about.
Yep. This has been a much smarter fight than I remembered from Berkman.
Yeah. Totally logical way of approaching this opponent. I think it's not every fight, not every good fight, not every proper fight is going to be fun to watch. Sometimes you got to just be a strategic fighter.
And actually, I think, KJ threw like 3 or 4 shots in that little clinch exchange, and I think those must have hurt Berkman because he backed out of there pretty slowly, looking like...
Now KJ's getting aggressive now. This is kind of turning into a good bad fight, actually.
Because it's sloppy as hell. But
this is what he needs. Just throw punches at him. Look, Berkman's getting out of position. His chin's coming up.
Yep.
That's what you need. Stay low, wing punches. Both hands, constantly throwing.
Yep. It's definitely the best moment of the fight for KJ. And then he just walked forward. Well, that's kind of classic KJ, though. Walking straight into letting somebody punch him flush.
A really nice left hook on the separation there by KJ. And another one that looked like it might have clipped Berkman on the back of the head a bit.
And maybe that right there really speaks to part of what's going on with KJ, too, is that, when he finally got mad, he started fighting the way he used to fight, which is just let the guy, walk in, let yourself get hit, but closing the distance is more important than getting hit. And it's it took that anger to get rid of that caution that he had.
He's doing some good work here. It's not pretty, but he is landing the better shots in a lot of these exchanges. He's being neutralized right now, but I think this is actually a great example of when a corner needs to tell their fighter that they're losing. They gave KJ a sense of urgency and maybe a bit of frustration that he needed to fire himself up. Body shot. Keep throwing. There we go. Left straight off of the wide right hand.
But somehow, though, in a fight that has had almost no action, both guys appear dead tired at this point.
It's kind of strange. This is a good round, though. I'm enjoying this.
It is a sloppy bad fight suddenly.
But that makes total sense. If you're KJ Noons, you gotta edge towards sloppy bad fight the moment that first round ends. You gotta say, all right, I gotta get after this guy because I'm not winning this fight and I can't win it doing what I'm doing.
And for Berkman, he's realized he's gotten stung a few times now that KJ's actually pressing forward, so he's just going straight into wrestling mode. No longer sit outside and throw kicks. That's not working. Close him down.
Because what I was saying before, Berkman's not a great jabber. His footwork isn't phenomenal. Kicks are a great weapon when the other guy's at long range, but they don't do a lot to keep the guy there if he really wants to come inside. In fact, the guy moving forward tends to have the advantage because it's nice counter from Berkman. It's really difficult to kick while moving backwards. You have to plant your foot, and a kick takes a lot longer to go out and come back than a punch.
Head kick from Berkman, yeah. KJ seems to have lost some of that confidence and started waiting more. Although that was a very classic KJ Noons punch. That little arm hook as the guy's shooting in on him.
Wide right, left uppercut, good stuff.
Yeah, nobody throws that little hook quite the way. You see that being thrown, and you know that is KJ Noons throwing that punch.
And that is a credit to KJ's boxing background. Yeah. That's a boxing tactic. You throw the right hand, they duck it, left uppercut comes right up the middle. That's a good shot. But Berkman, the wrestling here is smart. I think that is what took the steam out of Berkman. You know, we've said he's too tactical and he thinks too much, but he did at least know he was losing the rounds, and he wanted to hold on to the fight. He knew he won the first two, so just stall him out. Don't worry about winning exchanges. Keep him from winning exchanges.
Yeah.
KJ is just savagely elbowing the back of Berkman's head. He is very frustrated.
12-6 for a few of those, but Berkman finally getting that huge takedown, which it's not going to turn into any offense for him, but it's, it's a smart sort of Berkman holding on now that KJ has finally figured out how he should actually fight. It's just it took KJ 2 rounds to figure out how he actually needed to fight this fight.
Couple good shots to end the round. I don't think it's enough to get Berkman this round, honestly. The ABC scoring guidelines dictate that a round which is mostly one phase is to be judged more heavily by that phase. So if it's mostly striking, you judge the striking with more weight than the grappling. Berkman had some success with the wrestling, but I thought KJ landed the best shots.
Yeah, I would be fine giving him the round, but it's a close enough round too that I'm not going to there's no reason Berkman couldn't get a 30-27 in this fight.
No, it's not outside of, and he did have those good head kicks too, partially blocked, but still they're very impactful.
Yeah,
honestly, Zane, not as bad as I remembered. I kind of enjoyed it.
Yeah, it could have been worse.
Let me see what the event looked like. Maybe it was a bad event and it was like the whole event was stinking up the place. Well,
no,
it looks like a pretty good one. if I'm honest, it was a 6-fight Fox Sports 1 card. So, but that was after this. This was the featured prelim. And we had Scoggins beating Borg, decision, but a really impressive fight. A flying knee knockout in Diego Rivas and Noad Lahat. Derek Lewis blew Damian Grabowski into pieces. Alex White, Artem Lobov, the unexpected boxing masterclass from a guy who's not that great of a boxer.
Yeah, Alex White, really, I remember that. That was, man.
Not a bad card, actually. So, for whatever reason, this fight, maybe it's because it was a good card and this was the stinker.
Yeah. And to have a fight where you have a round where, up until 10 seconds left in the round, a guy went 0 of 0.
Yeah.
Like, that is a memorably bad round.
Yeah, definitely. And in my memory, that's what the fight seemed to be, because that round was so perplexing that Nunes was throwing 0 punches. But, to his credit, it took him way too long to do it, but he had the right idea in the end. Don't worry about being pretty. Get in there and try to get some work done.
Yeah.
Did we see, what was the score for this fight?
Oh, I don't.
I'll find out real quick.
You'll find out. All right. Our research team, Connor is our research team here. I'm just
soaking it in.
It was better than I remembered, but I'm still, by the end of it, I mean, when I reflect, it's still, there's so clear reasons why it's bad,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of these may end up being a little better than we remember, mostly because we get the chance to talk about them while we watch them.
Yeah.
Because usually if you're just sitting and watching that fight.
Yes. If you're sitting alone, you're just kind of drinking a Diet Coke on your couch. There's no one around because your girlfriend doesn't like to watch fights all the time.
And there's no way you can watch that one anyway.
Especially because it's like a Friday or a Saturday night. It's like, if you're like me, it's like your one chance. Typically, you work all week. You try to do stuff with girlfriend and friends on the weekend. And so this is like your rare moment to just get to sit back and watch a fight, do your own thing for a weekend night. And that just feels like a weekend being wasted. It really does. All 3 judges gave all 3 rounds to Josh Berkman. Kind of surprising.
Yeah.
Kind of surprising. Most of the MMA media had it 29-28 Berkman.
Yeah. I think that Nunes did enough to win that last round. All those elbows he was landing.
Even when he was being out-wrestled, he was getting shots in.
Yeah. But it wasn't nearly enough to win the fight. Without a knockout.
Not at all.
Yeah. So
So we have a truly bizarre one up next, Zane. Mark Kerr versus Hugo Duarte. I recommend people watch this one 2 times if they can, because the original commentary with Bas Rutten and Stephen Quadros is almost as good as what we are about to offer you. Stephen Quadros being the deadpan straight man to Bas Rutten's just baffled confusion, because it's such a weird fight. Hugo Duarte is such a confusing presence in that Pride ring on this night. And I also believe this was during the time where they didn't have English language commentary for the first 6, 7, or 8 Pride events or so. And so they recorded it after the fact. And so you get to pick up all these little moments that are kind of funny, where Stephen Quadros and Bas Rutten are trying to pretend like they're there live and they don't know the result. It actually happens a lot of moments where Bas will accidentally mention how the fight ends or who wins, or talk about who he talked to after the fight about it. There's a few moments like that here because they did record this well after the fact when Pride started to catch on in the U.S.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and so definitely you have to listen to the commentary on this fight. It's a truly bizarre one. It's also like, it's very much a very classic MMA fight, in that it's when we're still trying to figure out just what the hell MMA is and means. Yeah. So Duarte is a luta livre fighter. This is, part of still the lasting impression of luta livre versus BJJ that we don't have at all anymore in modern MMA. And Mark Kerr, is just, he's the smashing machine. He's a wrestling
powerhouse of the Mark Coleman school. Gets on top of you, sits in your guard, beats you up. I gotta say, man, I think the luta livre community may have disowned Hugo Duarte after this fight, because
do you disown the Mike Tyson of Vale Tudo? Because that was his nickname.
Let me see what Hugo Duarte, before we begin, what does Hugo Duarte's Sherdog record look like?
He has a win over Harold Howard. And right before this fight, and this should be some noted background, we're going to get this thing started in just a second. Right before this, he got knocked the fuck out by Tank Abbott at UFC
in 43 seconds, yeah. So, not like he's got some wins. It's not a losing record, Hugo Duarte, but it's I gotta say, it's kind of an embarrassing showing from him. It's very strange. He doesn't seem to want to fight at any point during this contest. And why don't we just kick it off? We'll do the countdown.
All right. Oh, well, I just almost started it. Let me go back and.
The trick is to pause and then use the reverse button to back up to the beginning.
I'm on it. Okay, dude, I'm on it. All right. So starting in 3, 2, 1, go. So, all right. Yeah, we're in for the Pride events. I get the feeling there's going to be a little more padding on this. So we're, starting out, we're seeing the Mark Kerr opening highlights, watching the Smashing Machine smash in very much the most Mark Coleman-esque kind of way of the classic smashing.
This was the age of the wrestler in MMA. This was Horace Gracie was the age of the submission artist, the first age of the submission artist, and then the wrestlers came in and they said, we can just be big and strong. We can let these guys who want to be on their backs, we can let that be the disadvantage that we still recognize it to be today.
It's the age of the key lock. That's the best way.
You saw a Mark Kerr submission there, which was a Kimura from half guard, which is the kind of thing that only a gigantic meatball with a wrestling background would even think to do.
Yeah, it's very much, strongman subs, and as we see with Duarte, it's the age of it's one of the things we're starting to see in Ryzen now too again, which is big dudes who only half know what they're doing.
Yep.
Yep. And those make for some hilarious and fascinating fights.
Good to see some body hair in the fighting arena here, Zane. Everybody shaves their bodies these days. I prefer to see some disgusting gorillas grappling with each other. We need more Matt Browns, more,
You're an MMA bear in terms of fandom. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We need some big hairy guys. Dave Herman, when he decided not to wax, really did it for you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good stuff. So let's see here. We've got Duarte fainting, looking very jumpy, and Kerr gets a really ugly takedown, but Duarte does not know how to stop it. So this is the
that was
first
very much I pick you up like a child and I set you down takedown.
Yes. The first of many instances in this fight in which, can't even call them instances because they last so long, in which Mark Kerr is sitting in Duarte's full guard.
And you get the classic wrestler tactic of the time, too, which is forehead firmly on forehead for Kerr, where he's just like, let me push my forehead right into your eyes and nose so that every time, if you move a lot, you're going to get headbutted. I might not headbutt you per se, but you will get headbutted. Some nice hammer fists from his back.
Yeah.
Duarte.
Good hammer fists. He had him at arm's reach. That was a good idea.
They were very panicked, which tells you that they're not going to be coming nearly as fast later on. But
so here we have Bas Rutten doing commentary on this fight, and you can clearly see a shot of Bas Rutten in the corner, cornering Mark Kerr.
Yes.
And he's doing commentary and pretending that he's there live.
Yes, it's glorious.
I want to. I wish I could back up and turn on my volume so I could hear what he says at that moment. Like, I want to hear if he just goes silent, because I know for a lot of these they really tried to pretend that they were there. They didn't want people to know that it was post recorded.
There's Duarte tapping the back of Mark Kerr's head, trying to tell the ref, I believe, that Mark Kerr is headbutting him.
And the ref gave him some gentle taps on the top of the head to tell him to stop.
Maybe. Like I say, It's not really so much of a headbutt. You can see Kerr picked his whole body up there and just kind of drops himself back down, leading with his forehead. It is an incidental headbutt.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a headbutt, and he's doing it on purpose, but man, it's...
So he's complaining at it. Here we see the first look of panic, of true panic on Hugo Duarte's face. Mark Kerr asking what the hell he's complaining about.
Both Duarte guys whispering something to him there gently.
They seem to just be kind of talking it out in this position. Kerr, I think, hit himself in the face there. That's good stuff. Tried to hook around the back of the head. So the thing is why a fight like this can be kind of frustrating is that Duarte has a gigantic, powerful man on top of him. He can't really get a lot of finesse submissions done. It's very difficult to just, like, you're not going to have an easy time of locking up the arm.
There's the more panic hammer fist. This really time, more arm in them. He was trying to hit from out, way extended out. Which,
but the other thing is that Mark Kerr doesn't really know what to do to advance and guard. His strategy consists solely of getting on top of the guy and then trying to muscle some shots in.
Yeah, he's very much in the like Mongo from Blazing Saddles era of Mark Kerr, where Duarte's corner is probably just like, don't shoot him, that'll just make him mad. And Kerr, in the meantime, is pressing a piano against him, metaphorically, a metaphorical piano which happens to be his body. And
the veins in Mark Kerr's arm. Do you think Mark Kerr was on anything at this time, Zane?
I mean, I think we all know Mark Kerr was on stuff at this time. Like,
that's
Mark Kerr has made no secrets out of being on stuff. Like,
yeah. What is KRS, by the way? Is that a hip hop shout out on Mark Kerr's glove, or what does that mean?
I have no idea. I don't know. I'm sure it's a glove manufacturer, but
is it owned by KRS-One?
I do not think it's a hip hop shout out. You could look. We're actually getting a little action here where Kerr has stood up and is throwing some kicks that aren't really landing very well.
They are the kicks of a wrestler. These are the kind of kicks you would throw if you were wearing wrestling shoes. Like, you can't really pivot your foot. Duarte was he trying to tell him something there?
I don't know, but that was a classic Smashing Machine dive back in where he like sort of half falls just straight on the guy.
It was like Dan Henderson finishing Michael Bisping if he had chosen to use his forehead instead of his forearm.
Exactly.
Just like diving headfirst into him.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing. Like that's very much the type of fighting Kerr was known for at this point, of the raw aggression, using my body as a weapon because I don't know how to use any particular part especially as a weapon.
more complaining from Duarte here. I think he's complaining about headbutts. Kerr talking back to him again. Now, this is one of the most frustrating positions in Pride, too. So Duarte realizes he's going at the ropes, and he's going to squirt all the way out.
Further at the ropes, yeah.
He wants to get out of that position.
Man, Duarte has a serious case of that KJ Noons. Or not KJ Noons, but of that CB Dollaway resting.
Yeah, his is more like he smells the fart and he's scared of it. Like, he looks really worried about whatever he's smelling constantly throughout this fight.
Yeah, it's very like the full I guess his mouth guard just must not fit, but it's like the full lip curl, nasal flare all the time.
This is one of the best fights to get screen grabs of someone's face in the middle of the fight. Like, I'm sure whoever was taking photographs ringside got some really good shots, really compelling portraits. And you can see, I think that Duarte is actually angling his back to the rope so that he can slide out between the ropes again.
Yeah, and
I think he's actually
flummoxed. I think Kerr is just kind of looking like, what do I do?
He literally has his hand on his hip at one point.
Could I kick him? I guess that didn't work. I'll go. Nah, okay, that kind of worked. I don't want to kick him.
Duarte's going for the knees. He's finally attacking with something from his back.
And there he just goes.
Wild scrap. But look, man, Kerr is just the thing is too. To Duarte's credit, Kerr is too strong. He tried to move and wrap something up, and Kerr just immediately rips his way free. There's nothing you can do. But that's the thing. You can't come into a fight with Mark Kerr at this period of time and think, I'm going to grapple from my back. It's a terrible idea against this kind of fighter.
Yeah, you can't really... I mean, at this time, you couldn't really go into a fight with Mark Kerr. I think that's kind of the problem. In this era of MMA, unless you were also, unless you're one of the Nogueiras or Fedor or one of the other, really amazing, great fighters of the time, Mark Kerr... you couldn't not know how to fight in MMA and fight Mark Kerr, because while Mark Kerr may not have known what he was doing, he was huge and tough and absolutely juiced to the gills and practically unhurtable. There's just, he's fighting, it's like somebody's dropping a cinder block on you and it's just okay, fight the cinder block. I'm just going to throw these at you from outside the ring, and you have to fight them.
Duarte is just kind of... This is a good close-up shot here. Duarte just kind of watching the top of Kerr's head, neither man sure of what to do.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Close guard is not the way to go here. Try to sweep the man or something. You can't just sit here and... I mean, granted, Kerr isn't getting off a lot of good shots. He's not doing much damage.
No, Kerr's not making a lot happen. When he is,
that is the point of closed guard. It's a self-defense tool. If you end up on your back, this is how you stifle the guy on top of you. To that end, it is working. But to the end of winning a competitive fight, it's not doing much.
And you can see, too, Kerr just postured all his weight up there and just put his forehead square against Duarte's head. And he's tapping the back of his head, trying to call the ref over. And it's just
But that's not actually even a headbutt. That's just head pressure.
Even today, that would be pretty much fine.
Yeah, it's totally allowed. There are fighters who use that, who just... I mean, Damian Maia does it. That's Damian Maia's main method of passing. It's just kind of plant his head on you and tripod around your legs.
I love that Kerr just tried to grab the foot there. He was just going to... And not a real foot lock or anything, but just he might rip it off.
It was like he was looking for an Estima lock, even though I'm sure he has no idea how to do that. Some kind of or a Kurt Angle figure four. It did look like he was just thinking of just taking off Duarte's foot at the ankle.
Yeah, just maybe I could just rip this thing off.
Just drag him around the ring for a while.
Now he's trying to stomp on Duarte's legs. Just just let me just see if I can break something at this point. That seems to be more what he's looking at.
I will say.
Okay, there. It's no. Let me see. Is a rope here? Can I slide out from under it?
He looked genuinely like he was pleading for his life there. Like he was about to be shot. Yeah. Now, Kerr is punching his feet. Really, really great MMA tactics here in this contest. Really, you can see the evolution of the sport right here. He is just hammer fisting the top of his feet.
Yeah. Oh, man. You see, this sport has changed quite a lot when like, and finally a stand-up, which, oh no, it's the round's over. I thought that was a stand-up, but the round is over. It's that 10-minute first Pride round.
Yep. And this is classic Pride. Here we have the Boss Rutan probably trying not to mention himself again. The classic Pride has no round timer, so you kind of get lost in the fight sometimes.
You do, like you forget how long it's been, how that's one of the things I really like about the 10-minute first round is that you really get that feeling of like this is just a fight all the way. It may not be a pretty fight. It's not a especially evolved version of MMA that you're seeing here. But you do get that extended feeling of actually you have to fight your way out of bad positions because you're not going to get that instant like, oh, if I just wait another minute, this will be over and I can restart.
I would watch one round MMA like Rory McDonald suggests. I would watch like a 20-minute MMA match with no breaks. I think it would be interesting.
It would be. It
probably would not always turn out a really fun fight, but no. There's something like philosophically interesting about that idea.
It would be nice to see like the occasional fight like that take place on a card, like a couple times a year as like a special rules match. It'd be fun to get a few more special rules matches in high level MMA.
Boss Rutan looks very frustrated in the corner. He just kind of face palmed because he does not look happy.
He doesn't.
Mark Kerr went for a takedown. Once again, nothing is happening. You have a feeling, knowing Boss, that was not actually what he wanted Kerr to do. Like, he probably had some
Boss probably wanted Kerr to go out there and strike. And, like...
Yeah. He's like, left hook to the body, right straight, something like that.
Yeah. But Kerr is going, this is what he does. This has always been the best of Kerr, is when he can just put lots of head pressure on and swing a few clubs at you. And
got a cut on Duarte's eye now.
You know what it's really very reminiscent of? Without the, like, explosion into the takedowns, it's a very reminiscent of Brock Lesnar, though. Like,
oh, yeah, sure.
It's that idea that no one shot is going to hurt you, but there's so much physicality there, or no one shot's going to knock you out, but there's so much physicality there that anything that lands, anything that happens is just going to hurt a lot. Is going to be a problem that you have to deal with. And yeah, Duarte is now split wide open, right like under the eye. That's like an in the eye cut almost.
This has always baffled me. In Pride, they really didn't like blood in Japan, I think.
Yeah,
and
they still don't.
So they not only did they try to see the cut at a time when American doctors maybe wouldn't have asked to, but they cleaned it up.
Yeah.
Which you're not supposed to do under the unified rules because it aids the fighter who's been cut.
Yep.
You're not supposed to clear their vision. You're just supposed to wipe away enough so that you can see the cut and judge its severity.
No, yeah, but no, they really don't. I mean, all through in Dream, that was a big... I mean, you remember, like, I think it was Jacare Mayhem ended that way, or was it...
Something like that, yeah. Also, Takanori Gomi knew it because in his fight with Nick Diaz, he was trying to get the doctor to stop the fight because Nick was cut. He kept asking about it as if he was in control of the fight and as if Nick was desperately in need of his help and needed saving. You could see, by the way, the first change in Duarte's body language just during that stand-up. First round, it was like panicked Duarte, but he was like in fight or flight mode. He was ready to fight. Now, when he got helped up from the cut, he was like holding out his hand for the referee to help him up. He's starting to become like he's trying to play on the sympathies of the people around him.
And you can see very deliberately right there what Mark Kerr is doing immediately after they got put back on the ground is he put his temple right into that cut, right into his face, and just started rubbing.
Right here, he's doing it too. Yeah, he's trying to braid that cut open. It's
very deliberate, like much more so than it was earlier, where earlier he's using head pressure. He was... maybe, dropping some small headbutts, dropping his body down, leading with his forehead. Now it's very, like, put my head against your head and just start rubbing. And just...
And that I still think you would get away with that in the unified rules. As long as you're not rearing back and hitting the person with your head pressure is allowed. He is definitely doing it though. Look, he's driving the edge of the forehead into that cut under the eye.
Yep. Dirty as shit, but it's, that's a... This is very much, I feel like Eugene should be here because this is very much his whole philosophy of fighting.
Sand in the eyes, kick them in the groin.
Yeah, put your forearm across their face and just drag it across their face. Make everything you do as painful to that person as possible.
Eugene is that motherfucker in the jiu-jitsu school who puts his elbows into your thighs, isn't he?
He is absolutely that motherfucker. Yes.
That's his main closed guard pass, is just to elbow the shit out of the tops of your thighs until you open your legs.
Yeah. He's a mean dude. And now you can see Duarte is getting more and more frantic and pissed about this because his face is starting to swell up. Like, Kerr has not hit him that many times, but his cheeks and all around his eyes is swollen from just the forehead just rubbing in there.
He's talking... it's hard to tell without the audio. Okay, his glove is now coming off his hand. The world is falling apart for Hugo Duarte. There are a lot of things going wrong for him here.
Yeah.
And I really think like he struck on the idea after that cut opened up of not winning this fight, but basically trying to make Kerr look like a meanie while he lost it.
That is very much because there's nothing going on here from Duarte. Like, we have not seen one moment in this round where Duarte has done anything to suggest he might try to win this.
No, not at all. He's trying to survive, and in the process, he's trying to make Kerr look like a jerk. That's and weirdly, it makes Duarte look like the jerk, while Kerr is just like this confused, cuddly grizzly bear on top of him who's like doesn't understand what he's doing is wrong.
That's right. It's sort of like rewatching The Revenant, where you really don't feel any sympathy for Leonardo DiCaprio at all.
Sure. Basically, you're like, the bear is just doing what bears do. Like, protecting her cubs. That's nature, Leo. I'm sorry, Hugo, but Mark Kerr is just doing Mark Kerr things. You can't complain about it.
Exactly. He's just protecting his cubs. And this is...
his cub is Boss Rutten.
That's right.
It's frustratingly telling him what to do, but he just doesn't.
And now the ref is finally like, you can't put your face in his face anymore. And Duarte's like, yes, thank you for not letting him put his face in my face.
He's also play acting so bad that he's doing a soccer flop right here in the corner. Classic Brazilian tactics.
Oh, Kerr is just looking at like, when do I get to put my face in his face again?
Kerr looks like he's like an old school dude and he didn't know men could act this way. He's like, Kerr looks like he's kind of offended by it. He's like, come on, bro. Like, he's embarrassed for him.
Like, really? I love that they didn't like push him back to a neutral corner, so he just gets to hang out right here and watch Duarte writhe around. Duarte appears to be complaining about his teeth here.
Yeah, the thing is Kerr is definitely getting rough with his head. But that's also fighting to a degree. Is the guy's going to get in there, and Duarte is not only is he not making any efforts to fight back, but he is making it look like it's so much worse than it is.
Well, it's a little weird too, thinking about it when it coming from a classic Vale Tudo dude to be like, "Don't fight dirty." It's like,
it's Vale Tudo. Like, you used to fight without gloves.
Exactly.
He is.
You're telling me that you guys were all about rules in these like beach Vale Tudo fights?
For sure. Very clean sport, Vale Tudo. Very clean sport, Pride. Who's to come into Pride and expect it to be clean? There's been 3 events before this. You know what it's like. It's old school MMA.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So we're back on the feet here. We might get a striking. Oh, no.
Duarte
went for
a knee bar immediately. I love though the brief moment of Kerr like trying to bounce on his feet, and it was really like wearing moon boots bounce on his feet, where he was literally just like jumping up and then back down,
just hopping. Duarte is now, he grabbed the ropes there, got warned for that. Oh, he sees an opportunity, might be able to squirm out of the ring again. Maybe.
And Kerr is now talking to the officials or talking to his corner. Maybe he's talking to Boss there.
Kind of laughing in frustration about what's happening too. He's kind of just, back of the head there.
Yeah, but you can't really call that back of the head if the guy's moving away. That's always been one of my pet peeves is guys who, in modern MMA, the complaint of seeing especially somebody who's standing complain about a back of the head strike. It's like you're standing facing the person. If they hit you in the back of the head, you must have ducked into that. Or turned away. There's no way that somebody
I still think that you shouldn't be allowed to hit the back of the head. It's dangerous. But also, I think if you're turning your head and giving that up as a target, like people do that in the clinch or in positions like this, then you also really shouldn't be surprised when the guy just hits you. Just like if you're going to come out with one hand on the canvas, you shouldn't be shocked if the other guy tries to kick you in the head. Yeah. I know it's illegal, but you're really asking for it.
Exactly. Kerr finally realizing there's more to punch than just the head and going to the body.
Mm-hmm. He got a few good shots in earlier.
You could actually punch him in the liver and maybe really hurt him, but Kerr's not the kind of dude to use his weak arm for anything.
No.
A little more head grinding, posturing up, putting that forehead right in there.
You know, Zane, I really resisted saying it, but when you said he's not a man to use his weak arm for anything, you know exactly what I was thinking. I was thinking, except that, because then Mark Kerr would rip his own dick off. Let's just say. Let's put it out there. Let everyone know what occurred to me as soon as you said that.
I think I'd be a little more worried if I were him about a lack of coordination than I would be about the strength difference. It's not like he's not lifting with both arms.
Yeah, the left hand is clumsier, which is even more dangerous.
Exactly. I think that's a bigger concern here.
So still Duarte doing absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Kerr not really sure how to do anything except occasionally punch with his right hand. Boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
The third round of this fight really is when it explodes into just a shitstorm of Duarte complaining. I believe he feigns being staggered at one point. Things get crazy. Duarte really gets desperate, not to win, but to make it look like he has a really good reason for losing.
Yeah. And like I say, the baseline reason for losing is just that he's fighting Mark Kerr.
Especially fighting him with this strategy, because he didn't get taken down that last time. He pulled guard and went for a leg lock.
Yeah, he immediately went. Kerr, I think we saw Kerr looked like he was ready to strike. He's like, okay, I'm listening to Boss. Boss is like, dude, get in there and throw a liver kick. And so...
I really want to see Mark Kerr throw a liver kick.
Oh, I do too.
As stiff as these are, by the way, there is some power. Oh, he's stomping on his ankle.
That is just mean. It's
cruel.
It really is. No, and it's not like Kerr lacks for athleticism or power. He just lacks for technique. And he's never lacked for being. He was never lacked for being mean as shit either in a fight. You know, I think that's kind of maybe that's the surprise here for a guy like Duarte or anybody else fighting Kerr in this era. It's like, okay, you know, this guy is a massive powerhouse who is nearly unhurtable and absolutely just gigantic. But you don't expect him to be as mean as he is.
You don't expect him to just want to hurt you, in a general way, as much as he does.
Because you can see, if you were watching tape on him, you're not going to be like, oh, man, look at that technical mastery I have to watch out for. Yeah. You'd be like, okay, he's a big brute, but I can survive that. I can find ways to work. And then you get in there, and he's just like, nah, I'm just going to...
Important development, Zane. Kerr is in half guard.
Kerr, yes. He managed to pass the half guard this time.
Axe kicked his way into half guard, in fact.
Not really a pass. Not a typical pass, but he managed to get there somehow.
He's got his knees fairly close. No, not anymore. No, yep, back to...
Yeah, it's full guard. He kind of put himself back into full guard, in fact.
He doesn't mind it. Like I said, it's just kind of what he wants to do. Duarte is right in his corner.
For a guy who's a grinder like him, in that classic era of wrestle grinders, being in full guard really just did give you a lot of body control.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Still does. If you, both
if all you want to do is hold the guy down.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've ended another round.
Bas
So
Rutten is telling him to throw a left hook. Did you see that? He says left hand. He wants him to throw his left hand. I have my doubts about whether or not Mark Kerr will do that.
uh, he doesn't throw his left hand when he's on the ground, when he has every possibility to just use it as an arm punch and not have to be technical with it at all. He never throws it. There's no way he's throwing a standing left hand. Or if he is, it's going to be complete. It's going to be a surprise to him too. It'll be like, oh shit, really? Where did that pop out from?
The round appears to have begun because Kerr was instructed to go to his neutral corner.
Yeah.
But Duarte he looks so sad.
He really does. He's just like, why am I about to get back out into this round?
He's getting sadder and sadder with every passing moment.
Manny looks so depressed. Hand slap.
Neither guy in anything resembling a fighting stance.
No.
Front kick from Kerr. Duarte literally just falls down.
Yeah.
Before the kick lands.
Yeah. He just fell down and is now beckoning Kerr into his guard.
For some reason.
Why would you want Kerr in? Like, he had 15 minutes of Kerr just on top of him.
He is literally refusing to stand up now.
Yeah.
Kerr has backed up. Duarte has no intention of getting back to his feet. The referee is instructing him, and neither man is listening. They're standing 20 feet apart.
You're saying, let him up. Make him stand up. Come on. And
Curtis decides to just go over and stomp him. He falls over. It doesn't matter because Duarte can't get anything done.
Oh. And now Duarte just ran out of the cage. He just dived through the ropes as quickly and hard as he could.
Closing his eyes and holding onto Kerr's arm. I think for a second there he was thinking about pretending to be knocked out.
Yeah, he gave Kerr his back, and Kerr just immediately started to beat the crap out of him. Like, the most action we've had all fight, and he immediately flew through the ropes. Like, it was just the last possible way to get out.
I don't know what the excuse is for this happening in a sanctioned fight. Like, Duarte is just getting a break here. He's now appears to be holding his ankle. Is his ankle hurt now?
The ref is announcing something.
Oh, here we go. Oh, Duarte's pretending to be really knocked out. Here we go. Are you ready?
And the ref wants to restart them, and Duarte is like, no, you cannot restart me.
He's rolling over. He doesn't want the ref to start them again.
Because he knows he has to start with Kerr on his back, because that's the position they were in. Is he giving up his back, and he's refusing to give up his back again. He's saying, no, I start in guard.
Right now, he's clearly quite consciously talking to his corner, but look at this.
So they're going to restart.
Oh, he's hurt, Zane. He's so hurt. He
just fell down and took his mouthpiece out when the ref tried to restart the fight.
And you can tell he's in his corner talking to his cornerman. He's so... Oh, another flop. This one, no excuse. He's not knocked out this time. He just doesn't want to stand.
Touch. It wasn't even like Kerr walked towards him, and he just decided to fall down onto his back.
Maybe it's the wind that carries with Mark Kerr's body. He carries kind of a...
Like, at this point, late in the fight, all the odor, all the, like, sweat. Maybe Mark Kerr had, like, a bunch of cheeseburgers before the fight.
And kind of natural oil Mark Kerr seems to be secreting. So he's just angrily...
And Duarte now trying to dive out through the ropes again while still punching Kerr. Let me hit you, but you can't hit me because I'm going to leave. This is ultimate taking my toys and going home style of fighting.
Hugo Duarte has just turned off the GameCube because the game might be yours, but goddammit, it's his GameCube, and you don't get to play it anymore. Mark Kerr is at least getting mad and just deciding to do stuff. He's just posturing up and smashing Duarte because Duarte clearly does not want to fight.
No.
Oh.
And those are the little shots that Kerr can land where you're like, you didn't even have to hit him that hard, and it looks like you hit him really, really damn hard.
That looked like a genuinely stunned Duarte.
Yeah. And he's given a mount to Kerr. who's now just going beast mode and looking
They're
to
all
hurt this guy.
going out the ropes, belly flops through the bottom
And
ropes, and the
that calls
fight.
the fight. That's it. Finally, Duarte dove through the ropes one time too many.
Yeah, the official result for this fight is TKO retirement. Honestly, I think that's retirement is far too dignified a word for what just transpired.
Yeah, it's TKO took ball, went home.
We get to see the climactic end here in the replay. Duarte literally just flops face first out of the ropes, and that is the end of the fight. Oh, God! Okay, it's over.
You can see the guy's trying to push him back in.
His cornerman's trying to put him back in.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to fight.
Oh.
Truly a strange. You don't see fights that weird in the UFC.
Well, there's a cage.
It's not even just that, though. You never, in this modern era of MMA, at the elite level, which this is a fairly elite level back at this time, you never see someone that clueless, that unwilling to fight. You don't see it. Like the last great bearer of that standard was Khabib Starnes, and even he wasn't as embarrassing as Hugo Duarte was in that fight.
Yeah, no. The only similar things you see now at all are when they pick up a guy who has an impressive record and has obviously not fought at any kind of reasonable level at all.
The Explode Fight Series guys.
The Explode Fight Series guys, some other regional guys they've picked up, and you're just like, and when when Francis Ngannou fought Bojan Mihailovic.
Oh, yes.
Where it's just like, okay, that guy had no business.
But even then, Mihailovic was there to fight. You know, he wanted to win that fight. He didn't just think of surviving from the very beginning. So, why don't we move on? That was a pretty long one. So, why don't we move on to our...
Yeah, our final main event. Our main event, Mirko CroCop, Frank Mir, UFC 199. The last of our painful fights for the show.
Yeah, and why don't we just get going and talk it out while the ring walks are happening?
Yeah. All right. So 3, 2, 1, go.
So this is the main event of our show, but also the main event of UFC 119. A far distant time when pay-per-view main events could be 3 rounds long, and thank God this was not a 5-round fight, because who knows how long it would have taken Frank Mir to decide to just casually knock Mirko CroCop out if he'd had 2 more rounds to work.
Yeah, this is the key. This is a weird time too for me, because I don't really. The disappointment kind of rides over for me because it's a general disappointment about Mirko CroCop in the UFC that I already had at the time.
Yeah, sure.
Because, you know, it really feels like Mirko CroCop's entire UFC career was, I didn't know it would be in a cage. Like,
yeah. His whole UFC career was a disappointment, and then strangely, he transmitted that disappointing quality to Gabriel Gonzaga, the man who made Mirko CroCop a disappointment.
Yeah. And the reason that Mirko CroCop has been a UFC disappointment, or was, really comes down to this. Like, when you watch his old Pride fights, you watch his kickboxing fights, his skill set, his style was so heavily built around having corners.
Mm-hmm.
Around having a ring to actually cut people, to actually move people into.
Mm-hmm.
And without that, it's just like, there's no, like, you can't lead someone into that left high kick if you can't trap them into a corner where they have to stop moving.
Yeah, his whole thing was getting people to buy into that 50-50 threat of the left hand or the left kick, and getting them into a position where they had to react statically. They had to move their head or move their hands. They couldn't just jump back out of range. That really, the big octagon in particular, it makes fighting very different.
It does.
Takes away a lot of what good pressure fighters try to do, and what you know, you can't use the cage the same way. It has a lot of uses that the ring does not offer. But you can't use it the same way you use a ring. That being said, Zane, Mirko did come into this fight with 2 wins.
Yeah.
He was riding, not great ones, but he was riding wins over Anthony Perosh and Pat Barry. You know, they're not the worst wins anyone's ever had in the heavyweight division.
No win, honestly, like past a certain point where you're just can crushing, no heavyweight win is really honestly bad because heavyweight is just it is the goat sacrificing cluster cuss of a division in which anything could decide any fight. And if you're consistently beating huge dudes, then that's about the baseline statistic for being a good heavyweight.
Mm-hmm. Fighters are,
Frankly,
and look at this. Imagine how many disappointed people there are. This is quite a crowd for this fight.
it
These
really
guys had buzz at this time, man. Mirko CroCop. I mean, how long ago was the Fedor fight before this?
oh,
A little while back. He fought Fedor in 2005. This is 2010. So it's not that long ago. It's still a fairly recent memory when, and even more recently, like in 2007, he was beating Josh Barnett. He knocked out Vanderlei Silva. He had these big high-profile wins. And obviously Frank Mir, for the UFC fans in particular, this legendary figure of the UFC heavyweight division, former champion, beat Brock Lesnar, all of these things going on. And so there's hype for this fight. For the people in this arena, you can tell people are really excited to see these two great heavyweights go at it, these two heavyweight finishers. And you just can't imagine how disappointing this experience is going to be if you put yourself in the shoes of those audience members. It's such a crushing disappointment.
Yeah, it's also because this is 2010 era Frank Mir, who he may not have been quite the golden boy he was during his early run, and he had a couple bad losses at this point. Let's see, where is this really coming in?
He had just beaten and lost to Brock Lesnar. Shane Carwin knocked him out, but sprinkled in there, we have a win over
that win over Czech Congo. Like that was the hulked up Frank Mir when he
Roy
really
Nelson
put on a lot of muscle.
The Roy Nelson fight too. He came in looking like a beast. So round one begins now.
Sorry, so we're like Hulk Frank Mir, who whether he was winning or losing was at least pretty exciting about it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're at a rejuvenated Mirko CroCop who has gone on who had a bad first run, went out, won some fights, and came back and was winning in the UFC.
And a couple of dicey exchanges early. It has the makings of a good tense fight.
Yeah, both guys look like they're willing. Frank Mir's, threw a little kick, came back in with a left hand behind it.
That underrated striking of Frank Mir, it has always been a secret weapon for him. He was never, at least not since the very early stage of his career, as limited a fighter as he seemed.
Yeah, no, he had a big karate background, and especially early on, like I remember watching, like his fight with Ian Freeman, I think, and he was really light on his feet early on.
And again, the Czech Congo win you mentioned, huge knockdown for Frank Mir in that fight to set up the guillotine. Clinch
all
exchange.
Right, and this is kind of then, unfortunately, the story of this fight is the cage grinding.
Yeah, it begins.
This
was, by the way, the period of time in which Frank Mir. Oh, we got a low blow.
Got a groin shot.
Classic. A period of time in which Frank Mir, who is so well known as the guy who gets pushed against the cage, realized he could do it too. So this fight, the Roy Nelson fight, a lot of cage control from Frank Mir. And leading all the way up to the Daniel Cormier fight. He never quite learned how to stop it from happening to him.
No.
But he did learn that it was an effective tool for both fighters.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, this is kind of, I think at some point, it was the Brock Lesnar fights that really showed him, like, okay, I got to put on a lot more muscle, and I got to use my frame to be a bigger, more physically imposing fighter in the cage. And the weird thing is that I think he never really became comfortable with that as a talent. Like, I don't know that big man Frank Mir ever really had the same comfort in the cage as the bouncy athletic Frank Mir, Like I feel like big man Frank Mir has been a battle of like, well, how big do I get? What point am I impacting my cardio? How hard can I really work when I'm this big? It seems like it's been more, I don't know if it would have changed his career trajectory at all, but it seems like something he's been trying to figure out now, like ever since those Brock Lesnar fights. Of like just how physically fit, how much muscle should I be carrying? You know?
Yeah. Back to the striking engagement. Mir came in with a couple right hooks a few seconds ago, being fairly aggressive.
A really hard, like, Mirko CroCop reached back and, tried to take a credit card out of his wallet with that left hand he threw. That was as telling, like, that was so, like, I can't, you rarely even think of Mirko CroCop throwing a punch that telegraphed,
Yeah. His whole thing is how difficult it is to tell what strike is coming next. That's the whole reason behind his early success, is that it was just like straight from the chamber, whether it was a punch or a kick. It was always coming right at you from where it started.
Which shows a little of the frustration CroCop's had working in a cage and figuring out how to make his striking work here. He's just like, I gotta just show power. I have to show people something to be scared of.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice lunging jab from CroCop.
Yeah, a good little shift 2-1 there. Elbow attempt. Mir going for the takedowns. Back to the cage.
Back to the cage.
This hasn't, much like the first fight we watched, this hasn't been the worst.
No.
This has not been as bad as it is in my memory. This could be a therapeutic process for me, Zane. I might be able to get over the trauma of having experienced this fight live.
Yeah.
By learning, I'll forgive the fight. I'll learn that it has its merits.
And I think that is a really valuable process for you. It's something that I feel you need, which is a lot of why we're here with this show, is we want you to feel, I don't want you to have to think, I want you to wake up in the middle of the night thinking about Frank Mir and Mirko CroCop anymore.
I appreciate you taking me on this journey with you, Zane, and accompanying me on this transformative process.
Yeah. So we're back off the cage, which is nice. Not much happened there. Frank Mir actually with a little leg kick, his own Mirko CroCop-esque shift punch thing that did not look nearly as effective, but landing some good hard little hooks inside there.
Good knee.
Okay, those are some weird knees.
Yeah, little side knees, like slap knees to the leg. Still, not a bad round.
Yeah.
I watch MMA, I can take a little cage grinding. I'm used to it. Not bad.
Not bad. Not bad at all. Both guys are competing. Frank Mir, I don't know why the break there, actually, but whatever.
So do you think, predicting, since neither of us remember it super clearly, do you think maybe like Herb Dean realized he broke too soon there, and so for the rest of the fight, he's not going to break at all? He's going to compensate by just allowing every clinch exchange to.
Ooh, those are some nice hooks in there, or nice little
sort of a shovel punch uppercut hook. Yeah, there's two very clean shots from Frank Mir, who is a pretty powerful striker.
It also came on the heels of something that really has not played enough of a part in Mirko CroCop's UFC career, especially, which was a really solid leg kick from him.
Yeah, more body kicks and leg kicks. He can throw them, but he never threw them enough. Even in Pride, he didn't throw them enough. He did have a really effective body kick, I think, in the Vanderlei Silva fight. I recall seeing the imprint of Mirko CroCop's toes on Vanderlei Silva's liver section here.
Well, respectively, too, when you think about some of those fights, things like Vanderlei CroCop, that's just so cruel.
Sure. Putting a guy who would end up at 185 in there against a pretty big 230-pounder.
Yeah.
A little cruel. But then again, sometimes it worked out. Gegard Mousasi fought Mark Hunt, so.
It's true. Mark Hunt is so weird. His career is just littered with weirdness. Like all of these 10-second submission finishes, losses.
Mm-hmm. That was Paycheck Hunt.
Yeah.
Here we go. Round 2 begins now.
It ended with some friendly hand slapping. So that's also, I think that's also one of the key narratives of this fight that maybe got remembered really well, was this very sort of buddy-buddy, both guys just really happy to be in there to fight each other.
Like Hall Howard, which, by the way, is
Yeah.
a fight we will have to watch on this show someday.
It
Too
is.
friendly. Too friendly. CroCop fainting a little bit.
Yeah.
Mir, good counter left from Mir. Really nice.
Yep. Kind of a headbutt in there, too, I think.
Another glove touch. I wonder if maybe that's going to become the tone of this fight, is like both guys just constantly apologizing for hitting each other.
And also, I think, we're also seeing this tentative, weird clashing together, like, range striking battle where neither guy really, like, Frank Mir is willing to commit to single strikes, but CroCop just no longer, he got stung a few times in that first round, so maybe he's just completely not willing to commit to much.
Good little 1-2, kind of awkward, but he landed, I think, both shots there. CroCop did.
Yeah. That's always been, like, the weird thing with his punching, is that it tends to be, he tends to keep his arms in tight, and then he has these really quick rushing punches where he really catches people by surprise because he's just darting in really fast.
Nice footwork there from CroCop. Got away from a Mir rush with a good pivot. Another clash of heads behind a left hand from CroCop, and we're back to the fence.
Yeah.
So it's definitely getting uglier since the first round.
Yeah, both guys maybe getting a little... CroCop getting a little more tentative, and both guys getting maybe a little more tired, a little less willing to just... a little less bouncy. That knee from CroCop is just flashing up. I like the idea. I like to think that maybe he's just teasing another groin shot. Like just flashing it up into Mir's cup over and over. Not actually connecting anything, but...
We saw about 3 or 4. Another quick break.
Yeah.
Pretty quick. We've seen about 3 or 4 head clashes in this. Both guys are really kind of jumping in at each other.
Part of that is Mirko CroCop's tendency, like I say, to just dart in quickly behind a couple strikes and really throw his whole body at a person.
Well, both guys are like... Mir has always been... When he throws that left hand, he really lunges with it.
Yep. I think... The weird thing is, partially here, is just how competitive a range striking battle between Frank Mir and Mirko CroCop is.
Right.
That's part of the battle.
3 years ago in a different venue, it would have been different.
That was an excellent right hand from CroCop, though, when Mir tried to close him down there. Really snapped Mir's head back, and Mir is now back pushing into the clinch.
So it is getting a little frustrating, this fight.
Yeah. It's getting frustrating because the range exchanges are far more competitive than they should be. And then the clinch exchanges are just stalled.
Yeah, and competitive is almost too complimentary a word. They're not decisive for either guy.
Yeah.
They're very ugly, the exchanges. CroCop doesn't really know how to get off the fence.
Mir's just throwing knees here, which is, like, they're not bad knees, but we've seen the excellent dirty boxing he employed earlier, and it's really frustrating to not see that again. Like, he's got such a big physical advantage over CroCop in here that seeing him not willing to turn these little, like, one hand on CroCop, one hand off into dirty boxing, it's just...
Another clinch break.
Yeah. Not really that necessary a one, frankly. I mean, it's weird because it's a combination of frustrating, but there's nothing happening at range that I want to see more.
Yeah, basically.
Oh man, that was so
it looked
ugly.
like it may have partially landed, but that was a really little uppercut from Mir there. Good combination.
That was much nicer, much less ugly. Mir actually stopped. He didn't dart 5 feet past CroCop on that exchange. He stopped himself and threw a combination. Another leg kick, which was actually checked by Mir.
He really darted by that. Mir strikes like he's mounted on a horse. He's like a cavalry officer charging by, swinging his saber, and he's just 30 feet behind you by the time you realize you've been hit.
That is way too true. There's the left high kick, but without the corner, without the backing somebody up, he just has to unload it and hope something lands. And that's really been like, without that weapon, without the danger and the threat of that weapon, CroCop feels like so much less dangerous a fighter.
Yeah. So again, not a terrible round, not a god awful round, but not definitely a lot less pretty than the first one.
Yeah.
And the first one wasn't that pretty to begin with. It was just this one was a lot uglier, I guess I should say.
Yeah, it's still, and this is it's weird because my memory of the fight is not way better than yours, but I don't know that it would have necessarily stuck out to me as a highlight all-time god-awful fight, and it hasn't been an all-time god-awful fight.
Yeah, it's not been that bad.
It's just,
I think at the time too, I had feelings about where CroCop could have gone. Like it was still this feeling of wasted potential. It was probably around the time when I just started watching his highlights. I just watched like the Pride fight with Fedor, which is still one of my favorite fights of all time. And so I just expected something better. And it's definitely not prime CroCop, and it's not really prime Mir either.
no, it's not prime for either guy, but it's not a non-prototypical fight for what either of them did over long stretches of their career.
Sure, yeah.
Because even to the point, like, Berkman Nunes is an outlier for Nunes. Like, that was an especially bad, like, man, I have never seen Nunes look that bad in a fight since, before or even since. I don't even know if he's fought since. I can't remember another Nunes fight.
There was another shopping cart clash there.
Yeah.
It looks like Mir wants to counter now.
Well, he just led there, so I don't know. He's just kind of, I don't know that he has any particular plan for what he's going to do. He's just, if CroCop waits on him, he'll throw a couple strikes. If CroCop leads, he'll try to counter. If not, he'll just go like this a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so this is more what I remember from this fight. This is getting pretty stupid. Neither guy's really doing much. A lot of just kind of hitting their heads together, and then CroCop just walking in, and then nothing happens.
Neither guy landing anything, and yet a lot of things being thrown, but not much landing or landing even close to clean. And Mir he's got that kind of Rashad Evans thing going on where he moves anytime except when he's throwing.
Yeah. Shogun head movement, I call it.
Yeah.
Bob your head, be really active, punch with your head right dead center, and don't ever use head movement to actually defend your. Ooh, that was a full-on headbutt from Frank Mir there.
That was just a go low, bring your head up and in. Disguise. It's not a headbutt that anyone would call, but that's very much just a straight clap.
Nice shot from CroCop there. He got a good right hook in after that left hand.
And was one that seemed to stop Frank Mir, kind of put him very much in his tracks.
And so Mirko wisely decides to back off and not throw any more strikes. That's his conclusion after landing one of the best shots of the fight for him. Just stop throwing them.
And that gave Frank Mir the chance to just another ugly close down. Are they talking to each other right here? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, which is really kind of cruel when you imagine what Frank Mir's about to do to Mirko CroCop. Like, they're being all buddy-buddy.
Yeah, they're talking. They're, like, smiling. And, CroCop landed a couple hard punches in there, but they're just kind of in there to, like, try to make a good show of it. It seems like this is like, okay, yeah, let's really go after and do this thing. And how far out are we? Can't be very far out from.
No, it happens very soon.
I'm just kind of waiting.
This round is a lot of what I remember from this fight, though. I think it's not a good round. Nothing.
No, I was waiting for the knockout, and that clinch break is just like, oh, what are we going to have to watch more of?
Like, these guys don't want to fight anymore.
Yeah.
I don't want to see them fight anymore.
The hand thing. Just the very much cavalry charges.
Oh, God.
Like Frank Mir, it's like he didn't want to throw, but he threw himself into Mirko CroCop and got hit, so then he had to throw. Like, he got hurt, and he's like, okay, well, fine, I'll throw a hook back if that's what you're going to do. Jeez.
More clinching. Yeah. This this is a pretty frustrating round. Here it is. There it is.
Oh,
Fight's over.
that,
Savage knockout. Really a highlight reel knockout for a non-highlight reel fight.
well, it just came out like it's just so surprising. Like I didn't even see what Mirko CroCop get hit with there.
It was a
Watching it,
knee, and it's like it didn't even look like Frank Mir really wanted to land it that much.
he was getting punched in the face, and it was just kind of like, oh, I guess I'll knee response.
It's such like a lazy knee too. Like he's falling off balance. It's kind of really short. Doesn't look like there's any hip in it really.
Yeah, it's just
It's accurate, but almost
yeah.
it seems by luck. Oh, unnecessary shots there. So again, like it's a highlight reel knockout because it's so sudden, and anytime somebody is completely knocked out, it goes on your highlight reel. But it's so weirdly lackadaisical that it doesn't put a capper on the fight the way you want it to.
Yeah, it's in a fight that like we had. I had, even knowing that knockout was coming, I had established a tempo in this fight of these two guys were just broing it out and waiting for this fight to be over. Like that's what it looked like. It was just like, okay, well, let's just we'll keep working, but I don't hurt you, you don't hurt me. It's fine, whatever. We'll be done here in a minute, and then we can go get a beer. And then he gets knocked out cold. And you're like, what? Really?
Is that Frank Miranda Sr. there kissing his son on the cheek?
Yep. Mirko being like, man, I had TV shows to watch tonight. I don't want to go get a CAT scan.
Both guys just sort of. Frank Mir even looks kind of mildly disappointed.
Yeah. It's kind of like,
with hair.
That wasn't what I wanted.
Well, man. So I couldn't completely come to terms with the fight and forgive it, because as much as I kind of felt like maybe that's what it was, is that it was disappointing as a process live, because I started out enjoying it and it just got worse and worse. And somehow the knockout was like the most disappointing ending. I don't know how, but it was
it's a fight. Like you see so many of these fights, we get them, and the whole fight is a simmer. It's a low simmer where nothing that exciting is happening. Like it never turns into that, Todd Duffy, Frank Mir brawl where you're just like, oh shit, this is totally insane. Never turns into that. It's just a low simmer the whole time. And it's very like the fighters look like they've accepted it. So as the audience, you're just kind of like, okay, neither guys, we've got our simmer going. Nothing that big's going to happen. Everybody's comfortable with just floating this fight out, and win or lose, that'll be it. And then suddenly a knockout, and you're like, what?
Kind of like Dodson Formiga. Is it that kind of fight? It's like nothing's happening. Neither guy seems to care that much. And then somebody gets knocked out. It's like, oh, all right.
Yeah.
It's over.
Because you don't get that. If it had turned into that fast-paced brawl for like 30 seconds and then somebody had gotten knocked out, you'd remember it as like way better, It's like imagine if like The Room, we're watching a bad movie, we're watching The Room, and like 90% through the movie, like their apartment just blows up and the movie ends. Like, yeah, that's maybe some of the excitement I wish I would have had in the film, but it comes out of nowhere. It doesn't feel earned. You know what the movie you really want to compare that to then is?
What's that?
Midnight Meat Train. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
So I'm not going to give a shit about spoiling this for you or anyone else, but like 90% of the movie, the first hour and 10 minutes of an hour and a half movie is like there's a couple murders here and there, but mostly it's watching this loser photographer try and jumpstart his photography art career and solve his emotional issues with his girlfriend. And you're just like, okay, I don't care about this. And then suddenly, like, he's trying to track down this guy he thinks is killing people and take pictures of him, and he's obsessed with it. So he follows him onto a subway, and his girlfriend gets trapped on. They were gonna go find. I don't even remember, but they're gonna go find the guy. His girlfriend gets trapped on the subway. He has to go rescue her, and they have this huge fight scene. And then he gets off the subway, and it turns out that the guy who was the butcher he was following, who's killing people to feed these like underground zombie vampires. and they rip the heart out of his girlfriend, and he has to turn into the next keeper of the zombie vampires that gets bodies and kills people, and that's the end.
It
And
just turns up. It just turns up out of nowhere, and it goes way too far. Like,
yeah,
that's CroCop Mirror. The knockout's too severe for how weirdly friendly the fight seems. It doesn't feel earned because the action hasn't. Nobody was like hurt at any point. Nobody had to claw their way back or fail to claw their way back into the fight. It's just like, let's have a dull fight, and it's over 30 seconds before you thought it would be.
Yeah.
Well, Frank Mir versus Mirko CroCop, ladies and gentlemen.
Indeed.
It wasn't as bad as I remember, but it wasn't as good as it seemed like it might have been upon this rewatch.
Yeah, I think these were three. I mean, I think they're going to be the kind of fights we find a lot of, where we find ourselves enjoying them more because we get to talk about them.
Yeah, and also it really depends on like the context, how you're feeling, what the other fights have been, what kind of night you had. A fight that is mediocre or even okay can seem really bad based on how you choose to view it or how you feel at the time. And there are tons of fights out there that I like that other people don't like. You hear that all the time. Tons of people just like people will see a masterful performance and think it's boring.
People hated Anderson Silva versus Nick Diaz. That fight's amazing.
Yeah, I love that fight. People hated Jimmy Rivera versus Uriah Faber. I thought that was a masterclass from Jimmy Rivera. I was so impressed to see that fight. People complained about how boring it was. So It really just depends on who you are and where you at when you watch the fight. But that kind of makes the show more worthwhile. We get to dig up some fights that we thought were really bad, that we remember being terrible, and then sometimes they're okay.
So on that note, leave us comments, email me zanesimon@gmail.com. Send us stuff on Twitter at @TheZaneSimon, at Boxing Bush, that's BUSCH. Wherever, comment on Bloody Elbow.
We could hashtag it, right? Can we hashtag MMA depressed us?
We can hashtag MMA depressed us. Just all one word. And
that way we can find them.
Yeah, leave us wherever comments you want. I'm actually gonna start keeping better track, make a list, pick stuff out from it. But we're gonna keep going. We want as many bad fight ideas as we can get because we try to block these things out from our memory. These are not happy things to dig up. On that note, I already told us where you can find us. Give us a thumbs up over on YouTube if you're watching this there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, MMANation.com. That's DOTCOM. And keep an eye out. We've already had If I Did It and Knuckle Up and Heavy Hands out this week. I'm going to be doing a Bellator Vivisection later. And we'll be gearing up next week. We don't have any events next weekend either, I don't think. Do we?
I don't know. It's so weird to have this long lull.
I believe I know our next thing is the Tough finale. So Tough Latin America finale. That's on November 5th. So that is not next week, but the week after. So next week we'll be back with Knuckle Up and If I Did It and all our normal shows. So stay tuned for all that. Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you next time.